Hey guys, Jay here. I just want to quickly discuss a little bit about the Blood Mage because I think it is very interesting. Someone in my Discord brought the conversation to me, and yeah, it got me thinking a little bit about this class. Oh, I think it is very interesting design. So first of all, it is the only class in the game that not allow but force you to take a ascendency point. That is Sangumancy over here. It makes you basically blood magic but doesn't remove the mana. So if you want to go like pure blood magic, you probably need to go to take actual blood magic keystone. I don't know how it will interact, but probably it will just double the life cost because you have 2 life costs now. If it doesn't double, nice, but I think at that point, you don't need to care about the life cost that much anyway. I think you will have enough recovery. Anyway, the point is not only downside like that, it gives you the ability to spawn and pick up life remnant. So life remnant, Sangomancy here, life remnant is basically just like a health orb. You have a lot of games that used to drop these kind of thing. Devil May Cry, I think, have something similar. Pardon me there. Uh, you can also spawn it not only on killing monster, but you can spawn it on critically hitting a target. So every few seconds here, I would suspect it is going to be 4 seconds. Knowing GG, if they didn't change, then probably this time is going to be 4 seconds. So spawning an orb means you can heal from it, and more importantly, you can overflow maximum life. Maximum life overflow can just cap your life at twice the amount that you actually have. So if you have 3,000 life, you can actually overflow to 6,000. That is just very simple and quite strong, frankly. So yeah, this is like the identity of this class. You need to take this point. So next up, what are our options? I think this point, Gore Spike, is probably one point that everyone would take because this just allowed you to have damage scaling from your life, right? It is just 1% critical damage per 40 life. If you have 4,000 life, let's just say on overflow, 4,000 life, that is 100% crit multi. It is very strong, right? So I think this is like a no-brainer. Everybody who played this class probably will take this at some point, maybe early, maybe later, but they will take it because it is technically the main damage scaling for the class. So yeah, I think this is strong, and I think it is very lucky that they decided to position the gore spike in this position, because if they swap the place with Sunder the Flesh, which is the point over here. We need to travel through Gore Spike. If these two swap, it'll be very weird because this gives you 15% critical hit chance. I think this is probably a very like early game focus ascendancy point. So if you cannot cap crit, and I do believe GUG mentioned it is going to be harder to cap crit in POE2. If you cannot cap crit easily or you cannot have a high enough crit chance, then this point is going to be very strong. For record, I see a lot of spell that is like 5 to 7% base crit chance. So this can be like 2 to 3 times your base crit chance, which is a much higher base number to scale off of, and then can get a reliable amount of critical strike chance. So this is an option. I think early on, if you play softcore especially, you probably should just take this one for easy damage, because I think that is going to be needed more than, you know, the tankiness from the class. And now let's talk about the other damage option here. Number 4, Blood Bard. So gain 10% of damage as extra physical. I think this is just basically 10% more base damage if you build physical or bleed. Elemental damage also contribute to bleeding magnitude. So elemental damage contribute to bleeding magnitude here basically means normally only physical damage can be calculated toward bleed, but now all your elemental damage can as well. So you can play a bleed build. Bleed has changed from PV1. It is going to be much stronger, I can just tell you right now. First of all, the scaling. So it's scaled based off of how strong the hit that you are dealing before any mitigation from the monster. So if you just want to crit and deals a very large amount of damage, then your bleed is going to be very, very strong. Just scale the hit, get the bleed. So it is much more simple than in POE1. And also, I do believe it's stronger because right now you can scale crit. If you crit and then you apply the bleed will be based on the damage that is crit, which is very, very strong, right? We have a lot of crit damage here. And other than that, spells can also apply bleed now. So in PoE1, if you play PoE1, you know that bleed can only be applied by attack. But in PoE2, now spells and attacks are all considered hits, and ailment just require a hit to actually proc. So bleed, you can proc it with a spell. So that is very, very nice. So I think bleed can potentially, this point can potentially be a lot of damage. So if you go full all in on damage, then yeah, these are 4 points you can take, and that is going to give you a lot of damage early on. However, it's not really balanced, right? So we will talk about other options. The other thing I want to talk about here is grasping wound. I think this is insanely strong. Why? Because this is Progenesis in PoE1. It is one of the strongest items in the game defensively. It dropped from a pinnacle boss, exclusive drop, very expensive item, and now you have the exact effect with 100% uptime all the time from one ascendency node. Extremely strong. This protects you from one shot, just flat out 25% mitigation from one shot, and then it will degen the rest of the damage, but you can recover to just counter the degen, right? So you have leech, you have regen, you have recoup, you can have a lot of things that counter the degen damage. That is not going to be as big of a deal as like just taking all the damage from one hit, which can potentially one-shot you. So this is extremely strong, especially in hardcore. If you play hardcore, I don't think everyone would play hardcore early on. Maybe some of you guys will do. Anyway, even in softcore, a lot of people would find this extremely valuable. However, I think early on we will probably ignore this one and we'll probably take the crit. So we can clear everything faster. If you fight a boss in softcore and you just die to it, then yeah, more damage will help. You just need to dodge. I think that is just going to be the case. So extremely strong. However, at least early on, I think the base crit chance here probably will have more. Just my personal opinion. But if you can actually cap your crit, then this is a very, very strong contender for your last point. Maybe you don't need this and you don't go bleed, then you can just take this for defense. Very, very good. And then the next point I didn't highlight here, but it's number 8, the Crimson Power over here. Gain energy shield from equipped body armor as extra maximum life. I think if you get this one, if you have a strong energy shield body armor, it'll be a pretty huge amount of life because it is base life, right? And it can be double by overflow. It just basically raised your cap overall. And in PoE2, I do believe it is much harder to get life. And there's not a lot of increased life on the skill tree. So yeah, I think just any amount of life really help because we need to scale more critical damage from Gore Spike. So maybe in the end game we can do something like number 1 here, Sanguimancy, and then we can get Grasping Wound, and then we can get Crimson Power, and we have crit damage from Gore Spike. Probably that is going to be a very beefy and still deals a lot of damage character in the end game. But until that point, I think we just take this side for like more damage early on. The next one I want to mention is Vitality Siphon. So this is extra recovery, 10% leech. I think this is a pretty big number. If it is not, then why it is a ascendancy point. In PoE1, by the way, just for the context for people who didn't play PoE1, in PoE1, the amount of leech that we normally work with is like 0.2% to 0.4%. That is enough to just like almost instantly shoot up your life from 1% to 100% in terms of recovery. So I do think that 10% here, even though leech is nerfed in POE2, pretty much confirmed, it is going to be less recovery, but 10% is still a very, very high number. So yeah, maybe yeah, early on, I think if you are struggling with recovery, then you would go crit leech, or crit bleed and leech, right? Probably this side. But anyway, I don't think this is going to be the only source of leech that we can have in the game for spell. So eventually, I do hope that we can have this stat from somewhere else that will allow us to actually take some very strong thing over here for the late game, right? However, this is a very good amount of recovery, I would just assume. And the last point is open sore. I think this is probably something that doesn't really belong here, unless there's some hidden mechanic and some hidden build, hidden interaction that revolve around a infinite curse duration. But I don't see a reason why we need infinite curse duration here. By the way, I think probably the strongest way and most effective way to reliably apply curse to enemy is through the blasphemy aura, which turn your curse into an aura. So you don't cast it anyway, it doesn't have a duration anyway, the enemy just have to be in the radius of the aura and it will just be cursed. So yeah, I think curse have infinite duration here. I don't think anyone would take this point. This is probably the most dead point in this ascendancy, and nobody will take it forever and ever unless they change it to something else. Maybe just +1 curse, I think, would be much stronger and more interesting. But I don't see a point of curse having infinite duration, really. So yeah, thanks everyone for watching. I hope you enjoy this kind of video, but it will not last for long anyway, since we are going into the early access very soon. So yeah, stay hyped. I do believe everyone is still hyped. I am extremely hyped. Jaced. Anyway, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoy, and please leave a like and subscribe if you do. Stay tuned for more content, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.